And I did. And I was on the flight with Mommy Halima about a month ago, and we're talking about him, and she was trying to said, oh, he lived in this part of Lagos. I said, okay, let's see if it's possible for us to see. And that's what we were planning about until what happened. There's none of us in this room that is going to be labored with so much scripture as much as searching one's heart and ask what question if it happened to you. I could identify with Mommy Halima because it happened to me. My wife is over here. I go preaching, and then I return in a matter of days. My daughter had died on a Monday and was buried. Because where I come from, you don't keep children. So I lost my daughter on a Monday, July the 5th, 1998. And July the 11th, my son dies. I lose 2 children in 5 days. And then the most difficult thing is, when you hear things happen to people, for all of us who have given tribute, it will never be the same when it's your blood. You might come close to it, but it doesn't feel the same way. And the question you ask is, what do you do when such things happen? Did you pray? Yes, we prayed. I prayed too. In my life and time, in the course of my work, I've seen the dead raised almost 5 times. Besides other miracles. I remember praying with my son, and he was praying. He died praying. And you ask, and which is a question for all of us here, is why do good people die? And we have to battle with the bad guys, battle with the armed robbers and those who make our lives very miserable. Why would God do what he did? In Job chapter 14, and the first part of that scripture says, that man that is born of a woman is of a few days, but those few days are full of trouble. If you had a choice, you wouldn't choose this. But this is all about the sovereignty of God, who chooses the path that we follow. That's in his providence. But as long as you're born of a woman, this is a path we all, somebody's service will be tomorrow. We don't know who. I worked in Lagos in the mid-90s, and I lived around this area. And I always had the time of walking to a bar beach. On Sundays, you meet kids. They make what you call sand castles. And the waves have seasons where they come high wave and low wave. And when the waves come back later, and all of the sand castles are washed away, my admonition would simply be this: what you find in Matthew chapter 7, from verse 24 to 27. Jesus was speaking in what you call the Beatitudes, or the Sermon on the Mount. And there are about 21 lessons in that teaching from chapter 5 to chapter 7. And in closing, he says, he that hears these various teachings of mine and doeth them shall be likened to a wise man that built his house upon the rock. The rains came, the floods came, the waters came, and they beat on that house, and the house fell not, because it was founded upon the rock. But then he that heareth these sayings of mine and doesn't do them shall be likened to a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. The rains came, The waters came, the flood came, and beat on that house, and it fell. But he said, and great was the fall of it. Now understand, between the two houses, they were attacked by the same inclement weather. One stood, one failed. How are you building your life? Like the sand castle or upon the rock? There's a Hausa saying, Mutua rikankowa. Death is everybody's dress. I will wear it, you will wear it. And I remember when my children died. My father just passed this year at 97. My maternal grandfather died at 105. They lived that long in my place. And when they brought, I was driving with the ambulance to the family house. My father stood in the way and he wouldn't go out of the way. And so I had to come down from the ambulance and persuade him. And he says, I'm alive. Why are they bringing back my grandchildren? It rained that day. I didn't know it rained. I didn't know it rained. Pain is real. Pain is real. But would people gather this way and say what they said about Rico when your turn comes? Sadly, you won't determine who gathers. You won't be here to choose the lights, choose who says what. As I also say, Mutua Tona Asiri. That death exposes secrets. Whatever secrets you've been covering, when you die, you are not there to cover it. And what we hear today is the life of a man who is not here with us, but the impact he's made has made you here today. And so my advice is, how do you build from here? It's enough to cry. When it happened with me, I just done pictures with the children some weeks earlier. Then it wasn't what you have today. You had to take the pictures then with the film and get it developed and all that. So after the burial, I went to watch the pictures. And when I watched the pictures, I cried for 6 hours. It's okay to cry. It's just being real. Nothing lets out the pain on the inside. People say, oh, don't cry. No, you don't tell me that when you haven't been where I've been. But when I say you cry, I've been there. When my father was buried, was next to their grave. And in the moment when I stood there, memories flashed. Build on the rock. Whatever you call the rock, whatever you understand as a rock. But this earth, as long as you're born here, you will leave this world. How you live, some would, they will sleep and not wake up. Because people always say, oh, if this was done, if that was done, if this was done. By the way, my son died in a hospital, so you wouldn't say lack of medical attention. He had doctors working on him. Died of cerebral malaria. Someone say, oh, if you had more mosquito nets. Now, all those things don't count. Hausa people say, ba ma mutu agoninta. That you cannot be smart for death. When the day comes, it has come. When my father was passing, my sisters were with him. He said, today was going to be his last day. Not everybody's that lucky. And they said, why are you saying that? My father's blood pressure was 118 at 97. And I had a problem with him with his liver, kidneys, his entire organs were in perfect working condition. And then they said, why are you saying that? Then he said that the people to carry him have arrived. 5 minutes later, he lay down his favorite side, he sleeps this way, closed his eyes, and was gone. Not everybody will be that lucky. Or however it is,